Welcome back. It's been a pretty big 24 hours for the tech industry. A Supreme Court ruling today essentially sidestepping the issue of whether internet companies should no longer be immune from lawsuits over users' content. Court's rulings were a victory for Google and Twitter, who'd been sued by the families of terrorism victims who say the companies aided and abetted attacks on their loved ones. The court ruled today that the evidence presented was insufficient to back up that claim. The justices, though, were narrow in their rulings and did not decide whether or not YouTube's conduct was protected under Section 230. That is, of course, the infamous law these days, which shields internet platforms from liability over what users post. Those decisions came a day after Montana became the first state to enact a law that would totally ban TikTok from anybody in the state of Montana. The ban, though, isn't set to take effect until January 1st and will be challenged in court before then. Ken Delaney covers the Supreme Court for NBC, joins me now. Also with me is NBC News legal analyst, and yes, you did see him on Succession, no spoilers, Danny Savalos. Yeah, we have to be careful on the spoiler front. I know we got to go, 2 weeks before we can talk about?
I think that's the general etiquette rule.
Is that the etiquette?
I think so, yes.
We can say that Logan is dead, but that's about it because that happened a month ago.
Yes.
Sorry for that spoiler, but I'm sorry, Logan is dead.
Yeah, and MASH is canceled. No more MASH.
No more MASH?
There's no more MASH.
No more MASH. And Seinfeld did it. Ken, let's talk about these Supreme Court rulings and the role that Section 230 didn't play and did. Look, this is a law passed by Congress, so it makes a lot of sense to me. The Supreme Court really couldn't, Congress gave them this protection, so it doesn't matter. We don't know whether they were liable or not, but they have this protection. Is that how to interpret this?
They didn't even really get to Section 230. The failure to state a claim essentially allowed them to not go to this question of does Section 230 protect this? But so it felt like it put off a reckoning because there's a lot of appetite in Congress to change the rules about this. That Section 230 is preventing legitimate claims against social media companies that are allowing a lot of bad stuff on their platforms, including, for example, there's lawsuits against Snapchat alleging that they are letting people deal fentanyl and killing Americans. And so, but it feels like the courts are saying, look, Congress, if you want to change this, you're going to have to pass the law.
You have to pass the law. You know, it was interesting in one of these hearings on AI, Danny, Josh Hawley, a Republican senator from Missouri, when they were talking about different regulations, he's like, there's no better regulation than the courthouse. You as a lawyer, would you still be thinking about challenging 230 in the courts?
Certainly. I mean, this decision doesn't change a thing about Section 230 because they never reach it. But if you are going to challenge it, I think it's an uphill battle. I mean, I don't agree with the idea that the courts are a place for regulation. I don't think the courts would agree with that. I think especially a conservative Supreme Court would not see its role as regulating.
Sure, but if you open up for liability, you've essentially forcing self-regulation.
Right, and we're also talking about the defense under Section 230 is one that dates back to 1996.
Right.
And certainly technology has advanced pretty significantly. I'm not so sure legislators in 1996 envisioned what we would be doing today, which is practically living online, living on social media, whether it be TikTok, Google, Facebook, YouTube, whatever the case may be. There were no algorithms back then that you even had to deal with. So if the court ever reaches Section 230, if a plaintiff pleads a claim that gets them to that affirmative defense, then some interesting things may happen.
Is there could Section 230 pass today in this Congress?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
With this kind of blanket immunity, because Congress, both Republicans and Democrats, have different kinds of beefs with social media. And the algorithm is key because, the idea behind Section 230 is that these are platforms, not publishers. But where does the algorithm fit in? It's feeding
an editor.
Exactly.
To me, the algorithm's an editor.
Right.
So you've just,
And so at what point do you hold them accountable for things that they're feeding people?
But you brought up the algorithm as an editor. But what if it is, as Justice Thomas suggested, what if it is an agnostic editor? Not an editor the way a human would edit things, but rather a formula that treats everybody the same. That's an interesting question as we move forward, is if something is in fact editing, which you could say an algorithm is, does it matter that it's not human, that it's really just a series of binary code 01000?
But it doesn't treat everybody equally.
Well,
because different people get treated differently depending on the algorithm.
Does it matter then the philosophical question, does it matter if a robot is treating people differently rather than a human as an editor?
The company programmed the robot.
Exactly right. Yeah. Right. Well, now we're getting into Skynet, right? Now we're getting into chicken and egg.
The TikTok ban. Let me start with the lawyer here. Is this a simple First Amendment case and this thing gets tossed out pretty quick?
Yes, plus it will be challenged on First Amendment grounds. And I think one of the major issues is if you deny citizens of a state access to a platform, but it's a foreign platform, and that may be significant. But either way, if you deny them access to a platform for speech, does that implicate, not necessarily violate, does it implicate the First Amendment? And if it does, then there are a number of different analyses that have to be considered. Is it subject to strict scrutiny? There are several different tests that the court has announced that have been around for a long time. Is it subject to a very strict test, in which case it is likely to be invalidated? But beyond that, there may be another complaint, which is called the Dormant Commerce Clause. In other words, states cannot act in their own self-interest and burden interstate commerce. The problem is it's really hard to tell when a state is doing that or just enacting a regulation that is reasonable under the circumstances. But a general rule of thumb is if they're burdening interstate commerce in such a way that it's problematic, that it outweighs the benefit, it could get overturned. Then the question is, well, are they burdening other states or are they burdening a foreign company or a foreign country?
We have different state laws on gambling apps.
Yeah.
So, and that's because of gambling, not necessarily the app. Now, that said, if you're in, perhaps I happen to know this, if you're in the state of Florida, which does not have these legal apps, I can access my app. I just can't make a bet.
Right.
I don't know if you can draw that distinction on TikTok. Oh, I could have the app, but I can't log into it. You know, I don't know if they could figure that space out, right?
Right. Yeah. And what's interesting to me is, look, the Biden administration, the national security agencies have all said TikTok is a national security risk, but they haven't gone so far as to try to attempt a federal ban.
But there's a lot of chatter about it.
Yeah.
By the way, the courts care about that. If there is, you know, Montana is responding to what the federal government says is a threat. So they responded. Well, the courts say, well, it's not like they decided this on their own. The federal government has been issuing warnings about this. It's not banned yet, but they've been issuing warnings. Does that have any impact on the court's ruling?
Maybe emotionally, maybe morally, but generally speaking, states are neither required to carry out federal policy, and probably the same is true that they cannot use it as a defense to an otherwise unconstitutional statute. They can't say, well, we passed this law to help the federal government. We see what they're doing. We get it. We're just here to help. In the same way, they can't apply or be forced to carry out federal policy, say, on immigration. The reverse is probably true.
What is TikTok saying here? Because this is the beginning of what's going to perhaps be a 50-state fight.
Yeah, I mean, they are fighting aggressively, and they have a huge lobbying campaign right now saying, look, we're essential to American life. We're a fixture in a lot of
They are
areas.
walking the line in this ad campaign. I'm a little uncomfortable that the Chinese government is using American soldiers to get you to like TikTok.
Yeah.
It's sort of the more you know, the more uncomfortable this ad campaign is.
But it also does show how ingrained it's become in our society, particularly among young people.
You have a new career?
You mean as an artiste?
Yeah? Or you want to come do the big board with us as well?
I could, but apparently...
I don't want to give away
Let's just say I may not be very good at the big board. That's the problem.
Well, it sounds like you didn't have the NBC. What happens when you're playing around with the Warner Brothers world? You know,
I need to go to Steve Kornacki's
That's
school.
right.
That's what I need.
All right. Danny Savalas, Ken Delania, thank you both.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.